Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Emily Williams in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and I know you have a different camera angle on me today and a little bit different point of view behind me. I am not going to bring a floss tube and variety show today. Today I am going to show you how to play the game Jotto. So this is a special edition. Today is actually April 15th, 2022. That won't matter really, but maybe some of you are interested in that. So shortly, I'm going to shift the view so that I'm down in the corner somewhere. I think I'm going to be able to do that and share my screen so that you can see me giving some examples and talking through the way that the game of Jotto goes and the way my logical process goes in that game. So I hope that you will find this interesting. The game Jotto, Jotto, was actually invented in the maybe 80s, 1980s, or maybe earlier than that. Seems like it must have been earlier than that. And it is a published game, but it probably was based on a paper and pencil game, and certainly it can be played on a paper and pencil version, which is 99% of how I've ever played it is that way. So I'm going to start by showing you what my piece of paper when I play Jotto looks like. So across the bottom, and this is after a game is finished, and I'm going to show you one of these columns to show you the reasoning. Across the bottom, I write my alphabet, and then I write the target word that my opponent is guessing up in the corner, and then I fold it over so that no one can see it. But this way, if I forget what it is or for some reason need to visually look at it, I can easily do that. And then I write my guesses in one column. This is my column, and I write my opponent's guesses here so that I can write down their guess and then what the score of their word is. And I write down my guess and the score that I've been given. So I'm trying to guess my opponent's word that she has written in the corner of her paper, and she's trying to guess my word, which is in the corner of my paper. And we do this by guessing 5-letter words. So I'm going to shift over to sharing my screen, and it's possible I have to edit the video at this point, and you'll see a little bump of what it looks like, but I'll see what I can do here. So let's just do this. I'll see. Oh, here it is. Let's share that. Okay, so this is my screen, which I just opened a Word document, and there am I. You don't really need to look at me, I don't think. I think you probably want to look at the screen, but maybe you want to look at me because here I am. So what I did is I took the guesses that I made of my opponent's word that she was trying to get me to guess, and I just put the first two down here so you could see. So my first guess was the word about, and it scored 1. And my second guess was the word piece, P-I-E-C-E, and it scored 2. And when I play this with people, I always spell the word, even if there's only one spelling, like the word about. I said, my first guess is about, A-B-O-U-T. It's just a habit I'm in, because when I said my second guess is the word peace, it does matter which version of the word peace, which of the homophones I'm intending to have as my guess. So that was that. And this actually brings me to one of the features of how Jotto is scored. So in the word about, there are 5 different letters. There are no letters that are duplicated in that word. So the score of 1, what this means is that one of the letters in my word appears in the word that I'm trying to guess. In the word peace, you see that there's a duplicated letter. There's only 4 different letters in my word, and one of them is duplicated. And when you are scoring a word, what you're saying in your mind is letter by letter, does this letter appear in the target word? So my friend will say, does the P appear in the target word? And I'm actually going to pause this video and stop the recording in order to see what that looks like. Stop the recording. Okay, I'm back. I paused there because I had this feeling that maybe I could do a little better with the size of the print on the screen, and I think this will be better. So I was talking about the word peace. The word peace has 2 E's in it. I was talking about what is the method of scoring. So the letter, you go letter by letter through the word that your opponent has given you, their guess, and you say, does this letter appear in my word? And then you keep track of the number of times you say yes. So does the P appear in my word? Does the I appear in my word? Does the E appear in my word? Does the C appear in my word? Does the E appear in my word? Now, let's just think about what some possible words are. Let's say that the target word were power. So if her word that I was trying to guess was power, then she would say, does the P appear in that word? And she would say, yes, it does. Does the I? No. Does the E? Yes. So now she said yes twice. Does the C? No. Does the E? Yes. So she said yes 3 times. So in that case, if her target word were power, she would give the word a score of 3. She gave it only a score of 2, which could mean, so then the logical thinking comes in. It could mean that there are 2 E's in the word, in her target word, and I happen to guess 2 E's, and none of the other letters match. Or it could mean that there's 1 E in the word and the none of the other letters match. In fact, if we were to change it to Bauer, the target word to Bauer, then you would see that the E would say yes, and this E would say yes, and none of those other letters would say yes. And so the answer in the case of the word were Bauer would be 2, even though there's only 1 E in the target word, because what you're scoring is the guess. You are scoring the guess. You're not scoring the target word. But we're going to get Bauer out of there because we don't know yet what the target word was. So this is me guessing. I guessed about, and I got 1, and I guessed peace, and I got 2, and then I guessed right. And the score in this case was 1. So now I'm starting to think about my logic, and what I'm mostly interested in as a Jotto player. Soon I want to get a word that scores 0, because that makes it easier to eliminate letters. Now, if any of you play Wordle, which I think probably 95% of the English-speaking world plays Wordle, so you probably do play it, or certainly you know something about it. In Wordle, a word that scores 0 isn't very helpful, but in Jotto, a word that scores 0 is helpful. So after I guessed right, I was thinking, well, I want to try to get a word that scores 0, but let me try this. So I tried the word ghost, and that word scored 2. Well, that isn't 0. So then I thought, well, and I'm referring down to my alphabet, which reminds me of what letters I may or may not have used. So I chose the word crazy. And finally, I got a 0. Now, at this point in the game, I'm thinking about how to use the negative information from the word crazy to narrow down what is in the word. So I know that A is not in the word. So what I'm going to do here is, let me just open this for a moment. I'm going to cross it out. I'm crossing out the A. And I know that the C in peace is not in the word. And the R in right is not in the word. And I don't know anything about the letters in ghost. So that is what I know right now. Is that all I know? C-R-A-Z-Y. Yeah. So I'm beginning to, begin to think, so it's 1 of B-O-U-T. It's two of PIE, but it could be just one. It could be just the E. It's one of IGHT, two of ghost, the word letters in ghost, so on. So one of my thoughts again is I would like to come up with another zero word that will help me eliminate different letters, or will compare to crazy in such a way that it will help me think of what letters might be in the word. So I chose the word craft. And the word craft has three letters that are the same as crazy. So I know that any score I get, any positive number score I get from the word craft is not because of the CR and A. It would be because of the F and the T. And the word craft, I got a 0. So that tells me there's no T. So I'm going to cross that out. There's no T here. Cross that out. There's no T here. Cross that out. So again, I'm beginning to narrow it down. And I'm really now, as I recall playing this game, I'm becoming more curious about what vowels are in the target word, because I know there's no A in it. I happen to have guessed all the other vowels, I, E, I, O, and U, I've guessed, and Y, I've guessed. There's no A or Y, but I'm wondering if I can come up with anything that will narrow it down. So my next guess was shore. And I'm trying to sort of use vowels in different combinations than I'd used them before. So I'm thinking as I selected the word shore that the HOS from ghost is in the word shore. I know R is not one of the letters. I'll just I'll cross that out before I even go on. And then the question, this helps me perhaps get more information about the E that is in the word peace. And the score on shore was 3. That is really not helpful in a way. So here's my thinking. It could be that 3 of those individual letters are in the word SHO. But I know it is, SHO or E, but I know it isn't all 3 of SH and O, because if it had been, these 3 letters would have gotten a 3 score, but I only got a 2. So it is, now I believe that it is 2 of SHO plus E. Now it could be 2 of GHOS plus a different letter from someplace else. The E could be 0. No, I don't think it can be. Sorry, that was a rabbit trail. Don't follow that reasoning. So at this point, what I'm writing, in fact, as I look at my paper, I see that I've written down here, I've written the letter E over to the side. If you over here and on my paper, I make little notes about my thinking. So I think, well, this is E plus 1 of SH or O. And that means I go back up to the word peace and I think, well, it's E that scored 2. Is it E and something else, or is it just E twice? Either because there are 2 E's in the target word, or because the target word has 1 E, but I used a word with 2 E's. So I'm trying to work that out in my mind. And then the next guess I gave at this particular time was shine. Now, shine has S and H in it, and it has the E. So if the 3 of SHORE refer to SH and E, then I would get a 3 this time. If I and N, so I had already guessed up here, and it's a possibility. I is a possibility up there, up in the word right. That could be that. If it's an I, then there's different ways that the scoring could work out, and the answer was 2. So at this point, I'm thinking to myself, I think it is an E. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that. I think it is an E. That's one of them. And the other of them is one of S or H, but not both. So it might be O, E and O question mark. It could be O. And I go back to ghost. Well, that could be that. About, that could be it. That could be what the what it was, what the one answer referred to was the letter O. So it could be that. And again, I'm comparing shine to shore. And that's why I'm reasoning that it might be that. But I will say that I don't feel that I have enough information to say that for sure. So I'm thinking, well, I need to do something else that will help me eliminate a letter. So I chose next the word graft. Now you see I used the word craft up here, and now I'm using the word graft. And craft scored 0. So if graft scores anything, it has to be the G, because that's the only difference. And the score for graft was 0. So now that means it is not G. So I go back up here, I cross out the G. I go here and cross out the G. And of course, those are the only places I'd had G before. But now I have S, H, and O, and there are 2 of those. Two of SHO are in the word. 3 of SHO plus E are in the word. And I think it's E plus 2 of SHO. And that is the comparison of ghost and shore. Shine has 1 plus the E. And so I think that of SHO, one of them is S or H, and the other one is O, and that's why I thought O might be here, correct here. Graft has 0. That just helps me know that it's not the G. And I come back up to right, and it's either I or H. Again, I used I and H together in that word. I don't know what to think about that. Now, in the game that we played, I spent quite a bit of time at this point considering what some words were that had E and O in them, that might have 2 E's or 1 E, and that had H or S in them. And my next guess was hello. And it scored 5. So let's think about how that could be. So one of the things is I think that is yes for the O. So that's 1. Let me highlight that. And I think it's yes for the E. So that's 2. So of the 5, 2 of them are E and O. Now I think that I'm pretty much certain that the H is correct. And so I go back to shine and I can highlight the H, that's the correct one. Here, that's correct. Here, H is correct. Here, H is correct. So in other words, I go back through and make sure that I can account for how previous words were scored. Here, the E, at least one of them is correct. Here, I think it's the O. And then I went down on my alphabet down at the bottom. I've continued to cross out letters I knew weren't correct, to circle letters that are correct. I know you can't really see that. I'll show you that again at the end when I shift out of screen sharing mode. So then I have these 2 L's. So the question is, it's possible that those L's are, that there's some word that has the letters HELLO in a different order, and it's a different word, an anagram. I don't really think it is. So I spent some more time thinking about, well, if it were 2 E's, because that, remember back up here, I was wondering about that. Although it couldn't really be that. I think it has to be at least 1 L. I think it is 1 L. So what I did was I wrote down HELO, and I considered, and I wrote a lot of notes on my paper about what words there are that are not hello that use those 4 letters, and are there any letters I haven't used yet that go with that. So, you know, it could be wholer, holy. Actually, I know it isn't wholer, R, because R I've already eliminated. I have tried the Y already, so I know it's not holy, HOLEY, meaning something that's full of holes. And I did more thinking about that. And then finally, the guess I gave was whole, and that was it. That is correct. So let's use that to say, yes, that's it. Correct. So that is the word, that's whole, and that's how that particular game went. So to recap, the important things to think about when you're playing Jotto is you're guessing a 5-letter word. That is, the target word is a 5-letter word. You're using 5-letter words as your guesses, and your opponent will score the word you guessed based on letter by letter. Is this letter in the target word? Is this letter in the target word? Is this letter in the target word? And so on. And your goal, one of your intermediate goals, is to get a word that scores 0 so that you can use those letters to deduce which, you can use the letters you know aren't in the word to deduce which letters are in the word. And another, of course, the ultimate goal is to come up with what the word is. Now, some questions are, isn't it just easier if you agree with your opponent to not use duplicate letters? Well, yes and no. It does clarify what the scoring means. Like this 2 would not have been, I wouldn't have wondered, is it because there's one E in the word and my guess word had 2. But what it does is it makes it quite difficult to come up with words that you can use to guess, because so many words have a duplicate letter in them. And if you're at the moment that you want a word, you want to use a word, you might not be able to think of one that doesn't have a duplicate letter in it. So when I play with people, I say, any English 5-letter word that's not a proper noun, a Scrabble legal word, is legal in Jotto. So that's one question. And the other question is how to notate things. Let me stop screen sharing again. I'm going to show you this again. So as I went along, I crossed out letters that I learned. I had to keep going back. So once I got crazy, I went back up and reconsidered what the scores might have meant. Once I did shore and the 3 letters, I went back up to think, what could that mean? And so on, all the way down. There were a lot of notes off to the side when I started to narrow down what the letters were. Like here was my thinking, what could this be if it isn't hello? Right there. So there's a bunch of other things written on here which have to do with Wordle or its cousins, because I play that too. So sorry about that. And there's some math having to do with cross stitch 192 by 192. And as it turned out, I think it took me 11 guesses to get the word whole. My friend was guessing the word crate, and it took her 12. But you see, she got the word cater, which is the same letters, but my word was an anagram of that. And so it took her an extra guess to get the word crate. But that is how the game Jotto goes. So I hope that this has been interesting. If you have questions about this, if you have specific questions about how to play, I'd be happy to answer the questions in comments or make another video, because Jotto is actually a very good pencil and paper game for 2 people. And because it's a game that can be played with that limited resources, you can play it over texting, you can play it in emails, you can play it on Zoom, you can play it on the phone, a lot of ways that you can play it. FaceTime, things that are like Zoom. So that is my introduction to the game Jotto. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and many blessings to you, friends.